Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K, and oh boy, this is a video that has been overdue for so many years. In 2 weeks, we will be having the 15th anniversary of Arkham Asylum, which kicked off one of the greatest superhero games ever. And all honesty, yeah, there are a couple hiccups here and there, but still, one of the greatest series of superhero video games that could ever come to be. I mean, the Spider-Man games are kind of doing the same thing, but when it comes to Batman, there is nothing better than the Arkham series. And I am here today to discuss something that a lot of fans kind of saw coming, kind of were not pissed, but disappointed with. And if you haven't played the series at all, get out now and jump to the end of the video where I will put... Oh boy. But for those of you who know what I'm talking about the reveal of what was supposed to be an original character for the Arkham series. Turned out to be what everyone, I guess, thought it was, and they were right. The Arkham Knight's identity. This guy was a villain that I never heard of, and okay, I'm gonna be full disclosure here. Before the Arkham series, my knowledge of the Batman universe came from the animated series, The Batman from 2004, which, again, if you've never seen it, watch it. It is a great rendition of The Dark Knight, but still has a little more comical Saturday morning cartoon feel to it. Gotta love it. And also the Batman movies. So, again, my full knowledge of the series, of the actual Arkham series, wasn't that well known. Although I still remember playing it for the first time, hearing Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill for the first time in years together. That wasn't a it got my heart jumping, and I loved it. Still hate the penitentiary section in Killer Croc's lair, but I'm not going to get into that. Full disclosure, I knew nothing about Jason Todd until I played the games. Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, I know. But again, not everyone's going to have the exact same knowledge growing up and going into this. So going into the Arkham Knight, I honestly had no clue who it was going to be. I had zero clue until they did the Panassa Studios section where we had to get the Joker infected back and Joker started bringing up all these memories. I mean, yeah, throughout this section, we start reminiscing about Jason Todd, who was a former Robin, and what Joker did to him and everything. And I think a lot of people who are like me, who have zero reference from the comics, would definitely, this would have been the point in the mystery where we'd be like, oh, that's what's gonna happen. It's Jason wasn't really killed. He got out somehow, or Joker let him go and broke him, and he wants revenge after all these years. Yeah, shocker. But that's not to say that twist couldn't have worked if a couple things, in my opinion, were done a little bit differently. I mean, I need a drink for this. If I'm going to be monologuing this whole thing, I'm going to need to... So, in this video, long intro, I know, I'm going to be going over my ideas on how the Arkham Knight's reveal of Jason Todd could have been done a little bit better. Although I know pretty much anyone who was who's a big Batman fan with the comics and everything, a lot of them kind of figured it was Jason right from the get-go, I believe. Which I get. But, and I also love how in the bios of the certain villains, when we get the, like, you know, when you do all the Riddler stuff and you finish a section, you get an audio log of that character. I'm glad we aren't able to do because here's the thing. If you're a completionist, kind of like me, you would have done almost everything you can before returning to the Arkham Knight's HQ after the whole reveal thing. Now, if you are one of those people and you do some of the trophies, you do some of the riddles, you destroy some of those robot sentry things, you most likely will probably have filled an area, and it would have been revealed that it was Jason and the audio logs and everything. But I'm glad that didn't happen, because nothing spoils a spoil more than an accidental reveal. So I'm happy for that. So, a couple ideas. I mean, I replayed Arkham Knight like 3 or 5 times in the last almost 10 years now. Shit. And a couple ideas that came to mind of how the reveal could have been done a little bit better, because throughout the game, Alfred's been digging into people he put away from Arkham and Arkham Asylum, people who were sent to Arkham City but kind of escaped or were released. And, all right, full honesty, I thought it was going to be the villain Prometheus. I did, but I'm glad that they didn't do that, because he was supposed to be in the DLC, but they excluded him. Okay, you know what? Focus on the objective at hand. Focus on this. But yeah, I just had to come up. I mean, it's a fun video idea, and I came up with ideas that, I mean, I bounced them back and forth with E to see what would stick or what would just kind of my ramblings on what would have been better as a good reveal. Because the minute Joker brings up Jason Todd right off the get-go, right at the Panassa Studio section, and throughout that section, we are having the images of Jason, of what happened to him, of what Joker sent to him, about us replacing him after a couple months. I get it, but the fact that they brought him up right then and there out of nowhere, that's what cinched it for me, that the Arkham Knight was Jason. Because you don't bring up something like that near this kind of late in the game and not have it mean something. And I've been rambling on for so long, so let me get to my ideas now. Right before the Panassa Studio things, we need to have the Batwing circle Founders Island in order to locate the Cloudburst tank. But before we can do that, we have to disable the land-to-air missiles, anti-aircraft missiles that the Arkham Knight has placed. Now, here's my problem with this. There's one anti-aircraft missile launcher. So what would have happened if the Batwing came from the other side and this one's right here by the bridge? Surprisingly at Queen Industries, which I really found that Easter egg really, really funny. But why not have 3? Because in video games, there's always 3 that we have to do. 3 objectives, 3 tasks to do before we can do something big. So if we had the 3, and then the major one was right where we had it at Queen Industries, where the big cutscene happens, where after we take out the henchmen, the Arkham Knight personally goes in and you know, we hide up and then we take out some guards and then we get that kind of that close range grapple thing where Batman says to him, "Who are you?" But then he says, "Not yet." This could have been reworked so well, but they and then he does a smoke bomb, and then we gotta get rid of all the Arkham Knight henchmen, and then we have to and then we disable the frickin' missile launcher. And then we head to Panassa Studios, and that's when and then we hit the clock tower, and that's when we're called the Panassa Studios because Harley's there. Okay, okay, so here's how I reworked it. What if we have a mini boss fight with the Arkham Knight here? Because that's the thing. We never get a boss fight with him. And that kind of sucks. And I'm not counting the Cloudburst tank or the Driller. Okay, yeah, those are technically fights. And okay, to be honest, I may do a chase boss fight list with the Driller. That would be really interesting. Yeah, I know. Stay on topic. So, imagine if first, in order to complete the boss fight, we have to, damage the Arkham Knight, and then we have to get rid of all the other henchmen first. So we do that, and we pin the Arkham Knight to, a glass window in the building. And then we do that whole inner grapple thing where they got each other, and Bruce says, "Who are you?" And the Arkham Knight kind of pulls him in close and then pushes himself out the back of the window. And there's a cutscene, and there's a small cutscene there where Bruce's face is kind of confused a little bit. So the Arkham Knight would have said something to him, but as the players, we don't hear it and we don't know what was said. So after we destroy the launcher, we contact Alfred, and he gives us the update on kind of the search for the Arkham Knight's identity, that no one from the League of Assassins, no one close to Strange, no one from the Asylum, nothing's been coming up yet. Not even things from Bane's past and everything. So without even kind of criticizing Alfred or all, he says, do an extensive search. Go back a certain number of years since I've been Batman. And Alfred could say something, "Master Bruce, are you sure? That's quite an extensive time period, and the number of names could be infinite." And he says, "Try, Alfred." It's almost like he wants Alfred to stay kind of in the dark about something that he's thinking about. And for good reason, because he doesn't want to, because he may be wrong, and the Arkham Knight just, whatever he said, was just to, play him a little bit longer, because he already did that thing with Barbara, because this is after, the whole illusion of Barbara's gone. So then after, Joker will make that lovely comment of, We'll take turns. You do a couple of crime solving and some of Enigma's OC delightful death traps, and I'll do a couple hit runs in the Batmobile. I promise I'll give back control when my turn's over. That whole good stuff. Because obviously Joker's going to make a couple comments. And then it's not until we get a good cutscene when we get back to the clock tower. Whereas we're doing the Batwings, scanning for the Cloudburst and everything, we get a cutscene with the Joker with Joker talking in our heads, kind of making comments. Something that will get Batman to think of a certain someone, like, "You really think this will make a difference, Batsy? You've been failing people for years. I mean, first your parents, then Tali, then, no wait, first your parents, then old Dickie when he went all solo act on us, then Jason Todd, you kind of let down when you couldn't find him. And then Talia, and now Barbara. You really need to stop bringing people into your life. Maybe there's or something about making comments about how there's a pattern of all the people who have died, kind of hinting that Batman draws chaos to him. So that little nidge of Jason Todd would be a perfect linchpin to getting us to go for the scenes in the Panassa Studios. Because with Jason Todd in mind, because of what Joker said, it completely has the illusion of what the Arkham Knight said to him is getting him to think on all that. And then sooner or later, and then during the Panassa Studios thing, we get the entirety of the Jason Todd stuff, which, not gonna lie, is some of the best moments. I also love the little thing that they did where after the Panassa Studio section, when we lock ourselves in the cell and Robin goes off to save the city, that's all fake. I loved it. And then afterwards, we go right to the Arkham Knight's HQ thing. And, we defeat the guards. We try to free Gordon. And then the Arkham Knight goes, turn around. But before all that, here's a little extra. After the Panassa Studios thing and after the whole Jason Todd trip down memory lane and everything, a new set of missions unlocks. It's not a villain. And it's in certain sections around Gotham City, where we go there and they kind of, almost like the Christina missions from Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. But in order to unlock these missions, you have to be at a certain point in the, okay, well, to be fair, we're almost done after the Panassa Studios. So once you do a good amount of the side missions too. So after you lock up certain criminals, certain villains, or once you do some of the other side missions, you will more of these missions will be unlocked throughout the story. And I'm thinking about 4 of them should suffice. Where one of them's in the clock tower. Oh wait, maybe yeah. And there would be kind of flashback missions with Jason Todd as Robin, where they could do one section where, Jason Todd was a street kid and Batman kind of brought him up a little bit and trained him. It could have been during a training section on a rooftop in Gotham. One of them could be when he stopped Jason from going overboard on a criminal, or maybe even the Joker at a time, where Batman says that you need to show restraint. You're not like them. We don't become them. So kind of showcasing that Jason is, again, a little bit more unhinged like he always was. And then one could be Jason made a mistake and it did cost someone their life, and Batman is scolding him for what happened. And Jason says that nothing he does is good enough. And kind of curses out Bruce and saying that you've already had one Robin leave you. Do you really want another? And making kind of hints that Barbara was also thinking of not fully leaving, but that the whole, kind of thinking that Barbara was on his side about the whole giving mercy to the criminals kind of aspect. And then for the final one, we go right up to Wayne Tower, where it shows a cutscene. Like, instead of an in-game cutscene, it's an actual cutscene where it shows the flashback of of what happened before Jason went to Arkham Asylum, where him and Bruce kind of have, again, a lot of words, bit of heart to heart, where he makes certain comments that if we got rid of the Joker, if you did it years ago, a lot of people would still be alive. And just to prove a point, Jason had Alfred print out a huge list of names. Since Joker became big, these are the people that, because of him, they're gone. And he shows this to Bruce while he's at the desk and says, you could have done something and all these people are gone because you refused to. But Batman points out that, again, like, how many times do we have to have the same discussion? We aren't killers. We stop them. We don't become them. And Jason just goes off on him, saying he's too much of a coward to do what is right, what's right. Says that if someone was there that night to save your parents, would you have condemned them or would you have thanked them? And that whole enough kind of, that whole Bruce has had enough. So he tells Jason to leave. And that's the whole thing of when Jason goes off to the asylum in his Robin outfit. And that's the last we see of him. And a trophy would come up saying, let's see, what would a trophy for completing that kind of side mission be? Memory Lane. Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, it's kind of a small kind of side mission to do, but it would give a lot of depth and context for the whole relationship between Bruce and Jason during those times before the Arkham Asylum game, and give a lot more depth as to Jason's mindset before the whole Joker torture thing. Which would, having Jason go off on that really angry note would just kind of work well against Jason, making him think that Batman decided to replace him. If he wasn't going to listen, he would replace him. And Joker showing him the picture of him with Tim Drake definitely adds salt in the wounds. So then we go back to the part I was saying about the Arkham Knight HQ when the Knight has Bruce at his gunpoint saying, turn around. Instead of the line, who are you? Who are you? We get a small flashback to the scene where the Arkham Knight and Bruce were neck and neck, and he asked, who are you? And then we finally get to hear what the Arkham Knight whispered in his ear. The last thing that Jason kind of said to him before he went off to the asylum. All this is your fault. In that kind of same tone, but with the mechanized voice. All of this is your fault. And that would immediately bring up his last thing with Jason. And of course, and then again, like I said, the cutscene with Joker saying his parents, Jason, Talia, even what happened to Barbara, it's all your fault. And it would all accumulate and bring us back to why he was thinking about Jason Todd at the studios. And then when he turns around, instead of saying, who are you? And the whole, you still have no idea, do you, Bruce? And then it's that whole reveal. But on a whim, just to see if he's right, Bruce turns around and looks at him and says, why, Jason? Instead of who are you, why, Jason? And then he reveals, it took you long enough. And then he reveals his face and says something like, I thought you were always the world's greatest detective, Bruce. And then, he guesses because he wants to be wrong, just to see if the Arkham Knight was screwing with him a little bit more. But when it's finally revealed, we get that whole scene of him trying to explain that the Joker sent to the film, and that he actually looked for him. And then we get that whole thing, and it just works so much more because it's not brought up. It's based on something that is brought up during right before that section of the game in a small side mission of Jason, and we get to see the backstory a little bit more. And then the reveal would be so much more satisfying. Although right before this, we did have that driller boss fight. And afterwards, the knight says, "Don't worry, Bruce. I kept some secrets to myself." That would only even more guarantee that the knight was Jason. But it's still in Bruce's mind that I know he's dead. I saw the footage. That whole thing of Bruce doubting his own, he let someone down and now they're out to get him again. I mean, it could be just his guilty conscience over Talia, Barbara, and Jason, and all of them just accumulating that he doesn't want it to be true, but it is. Jason wants revenge for everything. I mean, at least that's how I think it should have been done. It would have added a little bit more to the entirety of Arkham Knight and made the reveal not so. Okay, so you brought in the Jason stuff beforehand, and yeah, it's gonna be him, because you're not gonna bring this up and make it a red herring if it has this much aspect in the Panassa Studio section. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for my ideas on how the Arkham Knight reveal could have been a little bit better. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, am I a little going overboard? Am I wanting to make something a little bit more grand than it was? You guys let me know in the comments. And I really hope that, I'm not going to get the next Arkham Origins game for the VR because I don't do VR games. Especially Arkham Knight, because having to be first-person shooter during the end of Arkham Knight and those creepy sections where Bats jumps out in those statues, not for me. So once again, thank you for joining in, ladies and gentlemen. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and join me next time, where I revamp some old ideas for Sentai to Power Rangers, where we'll be... No, I'm not going to say riding the rails. Yes, I already made that joke in the first one. Of all times, now you decide to be irritating? Can I continue? Can I finish, please? Thank you. So yeah, I'm revamping some ideas, and these ones, make sure you have your tickets, because this list is gonna be a little bit wild. This is Gamer K, logging out.